So I'll start off talking about the title of the presentation first of all. So the conference is titled Social PLM 2012. And actually, the way we're looking at this at Nuage is that the introduction of social computing into the workplace actually has some very broad implications, and PLM is certainly a big part of that. The introduction of social computing into business, of course, being very important to PLM, but also reaching into other areas. And another reason for that is we're finding as we talk to customers and we're talking to potential clients, many of them are not yet familiar with product lifecycle management, but yet they have a need. So, we've developed a set of tools and a way of explaining it that I'd like to take you through over the next 30 minutes or so. So first of all, we think of social computing in business. A lot of times you would consider these to be separate worlds, and rightfully so. If you think of social, and I'll leave the social media off there, but if you think of social, you typically would think of social media outlets or social media tools such as Facebook and Twitter, and they have the connotations of being ad hoc so that they can capture conversations and events in a very ad hoc, interesting way. They tend to be community oriented, and they tend to be unstructured. So, again, conversations can arise that you wouldn't expect to. And the amount of interactions and the level of information shared is very rich. And on the other hand, if we think of what happens in the business world, what happens with tools like product lifecycle management or ERP and other things, we're thinking about intellectual property being a corporate asset. We're thinking about words such as security. We're thinking about the auditability of your information and revision controls. And when you compare these two, it's hard to imagine that social computing has a place in business because of this ad hoc, free-form nature in which people share things. For example, if you go on Facebook, I can be miles with my friends in Japan, and I could find out what they're having for dinner. It's very interesting information, but or perhaps not very interesting information, but readily available. And the point is, anything that you put out there, it could be read by anybody. Now, if you think about the limitations of using social computing in the business world, there is a perception that there are security risks, and some of the perception real, some not. We'll talk about that in a little while. And putting your company assets outside the firewall is something that could always be a bit unnerving for companies. And there's also the functional fit for business. I heard one of the other speakers talk about the idea of, you could potentially develop your product using Facebook, but the reality is the tools that exist today for social media just weren't meant for business. But as we're looking today, there's a whole new class of tools and capabilities that are built on a social computing platform that are today more and more designed for business, but providing the user experience that a social computing tool would provide. And if you look at where business applications have come to today, some of the enterprise tools can be very expensive and complex when it comes to purchasing a license, paying the maintenance, and investing in the computing infrastructure and support required to make that tool operable. And one of the most important things that I found working through some of the major PLM providers, value is often significant. So for example, when you're investing in an enterprise traditional PLM system, your time to value could be 18 to 24 months or more, meaning the time that you invest in your system to the time that you're starting to break even and get ROI. And the other limitation that we're seeing because of the organic growth of these enterprise applications is while they're very good at managing very specific process-based information, the ad hoc, unstructured, casual information, as some characterize it, the tribal knowledge that gets discussed early on in the development stages of a product simply aren't captured. So what we see is a great opportunity to merge these two worlds, so we call social business collaboration, And it's a bringing together of some of the usefulness of social computing, which come with the low acquisition cost, the ability to interact easily, folks that you may or may not know, and the value of business applications. Social business collaboration as being the best of both worlds, offering the acquisition cost upfront because of the software as a service model, reducing the complexity and effort because of offsite infrastructure and support. And this is we're finding that this is a very important factor in acquisition of capability for small companies. Small companies don't always have a dedicated IT department or a dedicated set of people and resources that are sometimes required to operate a sophisticated enterprise application like product lifecycle management or ERP or some of the others. One of the other benefits that we see of social business collaboration is a fast and scalable start. So what I mean by that is let's contrasting a traditional enterprise application, and there's a lot of well-intended thought in terms of developing the strategy for how that system will automate process and will do many things. But it takes a while to get to the starting point where you can simply put files in a vault and start to check them in and check them out and start to get comfortable using this system. If you contrast that with the way we're thinking with social business collaboration, you can actually get started extremely quick with very simple interactions that are the basis of all collaboration. If we think about what happens in collaboration, it's not all about sophisticated release management and so forth. It just starts with basic sharing of information to people you want to in a secure way. So we think social business collaboration provides a very fast and scalable starting point for our clients to get their feet wet and get interested and get value out of the tool. And I think one of the things that we feel is very important is the capture and leverage of all the information from the inception to production. And where enterprise apps do a great job today is they do a great job of bringing sophisticated of information later in the process after the ad hoc and unstructured and tribal knowledge discussions have taken place. What we intend to do is try to help our clients by making sure that they can capture and leverage information and incorporate it into a process, into a conversation from the very outset of inception and innovation. So social business collaboration, in summary, basically we see as taking the value of an ease of use of social computing and combining it with the benefits of enterprise applications. So let's take a deeper look into this. And we look at this capability as more than just putting in a common area where you can access. And there's many vendors who do a great job of that, and I think it's a great capability, but there's more you can do with the information once you have it accessible to everyone. So we look at a continuum starting with file sharing and file collaboration. So file sharing, basically in my mind, file sharing is putting a file somewhere that you can access it and somebody else can access it. And file collaboration, in our definition, is putting files somewhere that you can access and someone else can access, perhaps at the same time, and maybe you can continue to work on those files. And as you start to move towards the business enterprise world, then you start to get more sophisticated with what you can do with that information. You have work groups starting on the ideation phases of a project and formalizing process and managing change all the way up to reusing of the information. So we look at social business collaboration as something that covers this entire spectrum, and we also, I point out on this, sorry. Pardon me. Okay, sorry for that pause there. So we see that there's a gap between the file collaboration and the workgroup collaboration in the business. And this is one area that we believe social business collaboration can contribute. And this gap is really where the unstructured ad hoc conversations about a product take place. And if you look at the left side of the chart here, social, this is where some of the social file sharing tools today that exist on the market are doing really well. They're providing people, and not just companies. I mean, they're providing normal individuals, people who are sharing photos and student records and teaching, all kinds of things. They're providing them the ability to start to share files in a very meaningful way. And business has done a great job of being able to take sophisticated information, wrap it into a process. And what we propose is that there is a way to combine all of these different disciplines together around social business collaboration. So let's look at each one in a little bit more detail. And I'm looking at the audience, and most of you are from other vendor companies, so this might be a little maybe oversimplification, but I'll walk through it in any case. If we look at file sharing, we're typically looking at static information that people will share, contracts, proofs, and photos. And the action that would take place is you're putting information into a commonly accessible place. The capabilities required, many companies offer this today, are just a place, an accessible repository, a vault that you can reach and that you can share and publish to others. And people from casual home users can benefit by using these. And today they're using cloud storage solutions. Sometimes you're emailing things around, and sometimes on thumb drives. But what I found is really interesting is while you think about these low-level file sharing capabilities as being for casual home use, I've also found that people within large corporations, and I certainly won't mention those on the call today, but people within large corporations are actually using these tools to get around what the IT department has in place. They're putting stuff on the thumb drive, they're putting stuff on the cloud. I know one guy at a major electronics manufacturer who puts his email post box up on one of these tools, and drop the name already, on one of these tools, and then he goes home and gets it. And so this is, it's interesting, and it's great that these are becoming prolific, but there's also some risk because some of these tools aren't built for the level of security and access control that's appropriate for a company. So file sharing is becoming very prolific. It's really one of the first areas that social computing platforms have started to enter closer to the business world. If we move on to file collaboration, this shares a distinction that the type of information you share in file collaboration is something that you'd want to share with multiple people, and you'd want people to be able to view and modify. So the capabilities that you would need would be not only a repository, but a relatively secure repository where you would be able to control the access of who can get to the information. And you'd want some basic doc management capabilities, some check-in, check-out, version control. And the types of people that can benefit, still the casual user, but this is where small business starts to enter the picture. Small business, service industries, legal and education and finance industries can all benefit from this type of capability. And so when we start talking about those types of users, that's why we kind of back up and we call this whole space social business collaboration, because it's not just the normal product lifecycle management customers that you would expect, but they're starting to do things like PLM companies would do today. So how's it done today? People are still using cloud storage solutions, email, thumb drives, and sometimes some more sophisticated tools, SharePoints and so forth. But one of the key things that we've noticed is that in a large company, this file collaboration is typically done outside the system of record. And we think that's both a challenge for the clients, but also an opportunity for us as vendors to help solve that problem. As we move towards workgroup collaboration, this is where we see the collaborative tools being used more. These are where we see collaborative tools being more used in the workplace and traditional product lifecycle management companies. So now you're sharing product requirements, You're sharing information in an ad hoc, unstructured manner. So this would, in a larger company, could be the product innovation team, or it could be the marketing guys coming up with product specifications. And the folks that can benefit from capturing this information are the ones that are developing products. We actually think that the process industries in particular, and when I say process industries, I'm more referring to the non-discrete guys, the pharmaceuticals, the medical, CPG, food and beverage, those kind of companies. We see a huge benefit in providing the ability to capture this type of conversation early on. And again, we're finding through our research and our work with clients that at this stage, the conversations are, they're relatively casual, and people tend to work outside the standard tools because of the accessibility and sometimes the complexity required to access them. So let's go on to the next one. For work group, let's see, formalizing the process. Once you have information inside your system of record, then we can start doing some very sophisticated things with it, and this is where we see the traditional capabilities such as product lifecycle management coming into play. So the trick is, how do we take the information that was conceived and collaborated on in the file sharing through workgroup collaboration stages and bring that into the formalization process that most companies require today. So the type of information is work in progress. You're going to have some type of workflow in place here for approving, releasing, and the capabilities required of the workflow automation. And if you look at the leverage of PLM today, people start with vaulting and basic check-in, check-out, and simple file sharing like that. This is probably the next level of maturity that many companies get to. And I would go a step further to say that there's many companies using complex, expensive systems often don't get beyond this stage of managing vaults and managing basic workflow process. Today, specialized tools for workflow, some very, I think some very capable specific tools that solve this issue, but also most of the major product lifecycle management vendors, in fact all of them have this as part of their PLM suite. And then as we get more sophisticated, products are released. You'll want to create new revisions. There's change orders, and now change management becomes very important for product development companies. And again, this is a traditional product lifecycle management capability. And then finally, taking information and having the ability to reuse it later on requires capabilities for configuration management and bill of materials, and again, another area for product lifecycle management. So if you kind of summarize, think about what's on this chart that we showed, from the file sharing capability to the reuse capabilities that are described here. So the file sharing, file collaboration today is typically in the space of social, where formalizing, managing, and reusing information is where PLM lives today. And we see social business collaboration as a way to try to link together these pieces of information that may or may not make it into a formalized process today. Okay. So let's go on to the next one. And Darius, if it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and go through the questions at the end. I see a few things popping up on the chat screen. All right, so sure. I do represent a company called Nuage, and I'd like to introduce you to some of the things to address what we see as an opportunity to help our clients. There's a product called Nuage Cafe, and our website URL is noted there. And Nuage Cafe is something that was launched in April that starts with file sharing and collaboration, and I'll get through some of the few of the details about what it does today. And we've actually decided to go to market with a freemium offering so that our clients could start to get a feel for the types of capabilities and the types of user experience that we'd like to introduce them to as we move forward for more sophisticated capabilities in our products that we'll be calling Nuage Cafe for Biz, that will start in Q4 of this year. And so the Nuage Cafe for Biz will be building on the social platform and adding workgroup collaboration, change management, and some other areas that we think are quite important and useful for our clients. Okay, so just to be clear about what the product is, Nuage Cafe is built on taking advantage of the social media interaction model. So it's a social computing platform. It does run exclusively on the cloud. It's exclusively an SaaS model. One of the things we think is very important is we're providing an open membership platform where anybody can join, and I'll try not to throw out the Facebook too often, but it's the same idea that you can join as you would in a Facebook environment. And we have the concept of making connections where you would make a cafe, you would make a colleague. But we think this open membership platform is really cool, especially for small to medium businesses and companies that need to go beyond their firewalls and have a way to collaborate in a secure way with suppliers and other vendors. Of course, just as you would expect, you have a update wall with the microblogging capabilities, the ability to comment and post on documents that you're involved in, on projects, and setting up groups and chat and other things that would make this a very comfortable user experience for you. In terms of capabilities, the product today provides the ability to store files and cascading folders. You can upload files, you can experiment with check-in, check-out, and have much tighter control on who can access the files than some of the other free softwares out there. So you'd be able to set up groups of people that may consist of people within your own company, and you could have files checked in, checked out for collaboration. Of course, it keeps track of versioning and comments and so forth. Again, the idea being that you have this file collaboration tool in a social environment. And we think that today it actually works pretty well. We have companies using it today. In fact, there's since April we've reached 4,000 subscribers as of this week. A lot of folks are using it for ad hoc, unstructured collaboration. So these are companies doing real business, building real products. A lot of companies are finding, outside the traditional PLM customer space, we're finding service industries, real estate and finance, and other companies are finding great value in having this capability. In fact, I'll share something with you all here, is that on the weekends, my hobby is scuba diving, and I teach other scuba divers how to dive. And I'm actually using my tool for managing student records, and it's turned out to be a very effective way to share information with other instructors. We're also finding that university projects, both from student and educators, are a big part of the usage of the tool today. So we think it's a pretty cool starting point. And as we move forward to 2012, and so far what's available out there today, you can sign up. There's no charge and for you to get familiar with it. And as we go on to Q4, the first paid subscription is going to have enhanced capabilities, first of all for workflow, release, and approval, and some group company security protocols that we're looking at for the end of this year as well, that would allow you to have your own virtual slice of Nuage, where you could have a company level control over who can access the information. So let me go through, so that's and I apologize if it's too much of a commercial, but I did want to share with you what we're doing. But I want to go back and talk a little bit about some of the perceptions that the market may have. Slide change, there we go. Okay, so some perceptions and facts around where this whole movement is going. So I guess the first, and I don't know if it's necessarily a myth, let's call it a perception, is that your data is not secure on cloud-based social platforms. And with all due respect, we think that's changing a lot. Gartner and others have also said that in the next 4 to 5 years, more and more companies will trust their information to the cloud. And if you look at the type of expertise that's developed and the amount of capability, especially with someone like Amazon Web Services and other people that do this for a living, some smaller but very capable companies such as Vertiv here in Orange County, California. They do some fantastic things in terms of enabling security. And our point and our value proposition to our clients, especially the ADM companies, is that the level of security, level of sophistication that we can provide is typically going to be more than a small company can provide on its own. So we think that the security issue is becoming less of a showstopper for companies. One of the other things that was I thought was actually kind of amusing. We met with an IT leader of a fairly large organization, and he kind of looked us in the eye and said, "So what you're trying to do is put us out of a job." And we kind of laughed, because if you think of where IT sits in most companies today, a lot of it is built around managing the physical infrastructure, managing the computing, managing the resources required to keep things up and running. But what we think is that social computing allows the IT department to become much more strategic in terms of how they provide value to the company. So now they have the ability to pick and choose which resources are truly core competencies of the company and need to stay in-house, and which things can go outside the wall with SaaS tools. So we think this is a really powerful capability for IT departments. Another common comment is that social computing distracts from productivity, and I personally could not agree less with this. If I think about back in the old days, and at risk of aging myself, before social computing and other tools were available, in the office, and we'd talk to each other, and you'd share ideas, and you'd get a beer after work. I think that social computing has actually become today's water cooler, and so the types of conversation, when I managed a fairly large team of dispersed individuals, at Siemens and Autodesk, I was very happy that they would speak to each other and have these conversations, because a lot of times that would help them get their jobs done more. So I really think that social computing is actually bringing people together. If you think about product development, as Jim, I'll quote Jim Brown. He said, business is inherently a social process, and so social computing makes a lot of sense to me. Another one related to IT is that internal information system is rock solid. Why would I introduce social computing inside my firewalls if my corporate IT has this Department of Defense level security? Well, the problem is, it may be secure in your company, but not every employee is going to use it. In fact, you'll find that the more inaccessible it is by mobile devices, the more inaccessible it is due to complexity, less people will be inclined to actually participate in that system, and they'll work around you. This is where they'll go back and use tools like other document cloud solutions, memory sticks, and email. And some of these public email systems, we all know, are not exactly keeping your information secure. And the last one is an interesting one. Is the reliance on external internet connection is too risky for my business. And I do see that this is true, but not only for social computing, for anything. I remember a few years ago at one of the major companies I worked for, the internet went down for like 3 hours, and you saw people come out of their offices and cubicles that you haven't seen in 3 years, right? And the whole place basically shut down. People are wandering around, wondering what happened. So in a way, I think you have it. It is kind of true, but the train's left the station. In terms of having connectivity within and outside your company is really important. The good news is, most social computing applications can provide upwards of 99.9% uptime, which I think is pretty darn good. A couple other things I'll share with you is, we did have the chance to talk with many of the analysts around the PLM community about this movement. A few quotes for you from Jim Brown. And one of the things I liked about working with Jim is he was able to really help us understand what we're doing different. And I guess the one thing that I would say we're doing different is we're starting with the platform first, and we're looking at a scalable solution that helps companies first do some very simple collaborative things, share files, check them in, check them out, and start to work their way into more sophisticated PLM and valuable capabilities. And Sim Data, who made a great presentation yesterday morning, also talks as well, you can see the quotes here, and I think they had some interesting comments on our strategy too, and it was nice to hear from them. And I think that if I read the conclusion from Stan's presentation correctly yesterday, is they're like everyone else, we're going to wait and see how this market shakes out. But I bet you can imagine where my bets are. And the last thing I want to leave you with is there is some. If there's any doubt about the seriousness of investment, again, Stan had a great number in there. He showed a number from, I believe it was IDC, showing a 42% growth in social enterprise investment. We've seen the same thing in 2011. It started to really take off in terms of the amount of spending in social enterprise, going up to around $750 million per year. The estimated growth goes from 14 to 40%, and everybody thinks it is going to grow at some fairly large number. And the other thing that we think is extremely interesting is over the last 12 months there have been at least 75, and I haven't checked the papers this morning, maybe it's 76 this morning, acquisitions and mergers of social enterprise companies. A lot of these are with companies like Autodesk and Oracle and many others. So we think that this is not a coincidence, and that there really are some serious moves in the social business area, and we would like to be a part of that. Let's go on to the last one here. So summary is what part of the presentation I wanted to share with you is first of all, introducing the term social business collaboration, as combining the user experience of social computing with the benefits of enterprise applications, obviously product lifecycle management, and many things that take place within product lifecycle management, such as the document collaboration, the workflow process, and others, we feel are absolutely perfect solutions for this area, especially for the non-discrete industries, for CPG, for medical, and other industries of that nature. And in the last sentence I say it's far from a fad, and I probably don't need to tell this audience, but I do believe that the business is quite serious about this. If you look at the investment, the mergers and acquisitions, the number of companies like Nuage that are sprouting up with some, what I think are some great and innovative ideas to address many of the challenges and opportunities here. So with that, I'll end the presentation, and Darius, if I could turn it over for questions, that would be great.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ron, for this excellent presentation. I really like what you're doing.
Okay, so I am able to read one of the questions, Chris. It says, if it is Hawk, why is inventory with check-in out needed? Are you talking about the files at this point? That's a great question. At this point, so Chris, what we're talking about is we are talking about files that are subject to discussions, but through the microblogging, we think that there's discussion next to the files that should be preserved. And so we're trying to combine the conversations about files and about information together. At some point, we think it would be extremely valuable, and we have the mechanisms, certainly infrastructure in place, to start capturing some of the discussions about a product that might take place in a chat and attach those to very specific products. And then on the question of, let's see, Chris, I saw you another question from you, Chris, that said, does this mean you're competing with traditional PLM vendors? And yeah, I think in some areas we're probably going to have some moments of competition, but I think there's probably what we're doing opens the doors towards opportunities of cooperation in probably a very meaningful way. As I said, we're really looking at the non-discrete industries, the guys that are in CPG, food and beverage, medical, and and especially the small to medium businesses. So in some ways, we think we can provide some very unique things. In other areas, we're going to want to, perhaps collaborate on the higher end of sophistication. And oh boy, Chris is on a roll here. If you have version configuration, et cetera, via the cloud, then is this a direct overlap to 360? I can't speak for Autodesk 360 specifically, but our target, as I said, is to really look at some of the folks that are in the non-discrete industries, and I don't know if that's the same target as 360. If it is, maybe there is some overlap. And we're also looking at putting our data exclusively on the cloud, and I hate to do this without having some from Autodesk around, but what I think part of their strategy is to leave the information, the actual physical data at the customer site, manage some of the metadata, and then link them together. So there might be a few differences, but like I said, I think there's a lot of room in a lot of different areas of focus. If anyone would like to contact me, please grab my details from the website there. Thank you very much.